Hello everyone, this is Amanda. It's the 29th of November 2018 as I'm recording this video today. I'm going to be looking at South Africa's energy and also looking at three of the leaders there, including the president, current president. What I would say before I even make this video is that I know that there are a number of themes that are going to come up which apply to other countries. So if you're not in South Africa or you're not South African and you're thinking, well, maybe this isn't relevant to me, I would say there are subjects within this that you can pull out and probably apply to other places around the world as well. As an example, I'm going to be asking Archangel Metatron about issues such as corruption, wildlife, and violence, and racial tension. Now, it may well be that in South Africa, for many reasons, these things are particularly highlighted at the moment, but we can see reflections of them around the world in many other countries as well. So although this is intended as a South African reading, please know that some of the teaching and guidance that probably comes from it is going to be relevant for many other parts of the world. Those of you that don't know me, I work with the energy of Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon, and indeed the whole angelic realm. I am an intuitive channel. I read cards, but I read them in my own way. Don't like to be too tied to any one particular structure or methodology. And I also work with colour. And in fact, my first exposure really to South African energy, and Metatron is saying, and yes, you felt it in a really strong and powerful way, was through a colour system that I trained in and I was part of, still am part of, but was practicing for 10 years, and that was colour mirrors. Now, colour mirrors is a colour energy system that was born in South Africa and still is made in South Africa. And the colours of the colour mirrors system, and the bottles look, I've shown you these before, they're the round bottles, so some of you are familiar with Aura Soma. These are sort of the colour mirrors bottles. They're round, but the colours always felt to me as though they reflected beautiful African sunsets and sunrises and rich colours, basically, that really resonated with me. So through colour mirrors, I met a lot of South African people, and not just through them actually. I seem to have got a disproportionate number of South African friends who, for whatever reason, just have found me or I have found them. People that have either emigrated from South Africa to the UK for a multitude of reasons. And I also know people that have gone back to South Africa as well, including somebody within my own circle who emigrated to South Africa from the UK and is now living there. So although I haven't been, and that's a shame, I have been surrounded by a lot of South African energy for a while. A couple of weeks ago, when I asked for questions from you for your country, there was a deluge of information that came in. And I am not sitting here by any stretch of the imagination presenting myself as an expert in terms of your country's political, economic and social conditions. What we are going to do on this video is just take a number of different subjects and feel into them for some higher spiritual guidance, as well as look at some of the leaders, as I say, and I've printed out their photographs. The tools that I've got to help me, as well as my own ability just to be able to channel spirit in the way that I do, is I've got some crystal energy around me, which is all very grounding. This beautiful piece, which I've shown you before in other videos. Don't ask me, I can never remember what it is. I'm pretty sure it's a jasper. It's very, very heavy, grounding, and solid. And I've also got this beautiful dragon that was gifted to me yesterday, actually. And just because this is the first video that I've done since getting him, I felt that I wanted to bring his energy into this as well. And this is rhodonite. And indeed, there's a lot that's written about South Africa and indeed the whole of Africa as linked into the heart chakra energy of the planet. And rhodonite is a stone that links into the heart as well. So I thought I'd bring that here. I've got some incense going, which is called African Mist. So if you see smoke going across the screen, that's what it is. And I'm using the After Tarot deck when I feel I need to use it. And I'm going to use a deck called by Shelly, who is a South African artist. And it's called The Sacred Soul Journey. And I got this a number of years ago, to be honest. I'm assuming it's still for sale. I don't know whether it is. But the deck was created to link into colour mirrors, bottle energies. And so it makes sense to people that have maybe done training in that methodology. Might not make a huge amount of sense or as much sense to people that haven't done that. So I'm only saying that because I often use decks and people ask me, what are they? Go off and buy them. And this is a great deck, but it's one where there is there's teaching behind it and a whole system behind it that if you've done it, you'll benefit more from using them. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, I think I'd just like to pull one card from that deck, Sacred Soul Journey by Shelly. Doesn't come in a box. It comes in well, in my day, it came in a bag like that. So this is the book though. That's sort of what the art looks like. It's got a South African feel running through all of it. And let's just ask for one card. I feel it's that one actually. For the whole of, I was going to say for South Africa's energy. And I rather love this. It has come upside down, okay? So it's come upside down, but it's card number 36. Now, card number 36 is the gateway bottle, okay, within colour mirrors. The gateway, basically, which is about going through the gateway towards a higher dimension, stepping through, being the light for other people as well. So at a personal level, it would very much be you're being asked to step through the gateway to be the light for others. What's coming through here is that South Africa is being asked to be the light for others. And at the moment, we can't necessarily see that light. It came in an upside down position, card number 36, which is showing that energetically, there is collective resistance, probably subconscious, to becoming that, to becoming a shining light on the planet where other countries look at you as an example of, wow, look at what they do, look at how they behave, look at the policies, look at what they're doing, shall we do that? Whereas at the moment, the opposite is probably sadly true. The darkness feels as though it's still holding a vice-like grip on the country. And I say that because of the comments that have flooded in since saying I was going to do this video. So many messages and emails coming in about the level of violence, vicious violence, murder, rape, etc. That looting that is happening, and people being very frightened and in fear of that. And of course, to even have that association and that label around a country or around a person sometimes makes it hard to shake off. In fact, I'm being given the analogy of a person here. If we actually imagine South Africa as one person, okay, and imagine you have, you know, a person and they have a whole history of dark deeds, basically, you know, violence, racial hatred, I don't know, you know, just darkness, basically. And that person wants a second chance. That person wants to show that they are literally throw off that old mantle, that old identity. But yet everybody else who knows that person knows them because of those acts, deeds, and consciousness. And it makes it doubly hard for the person to almost like turn over a new leaf. And what Metatron is saying is, in a way, that person is South Africa, because we as a global community also have a duty to be able to see the highest vision for any country in the world. And I feel as though much of South Africa's problem, I also want to say Africa's problem, is the way that it is viewed by people outside of it, just as much as the people within it that are, I'm hearing the word chained down still by old identity, which in many ways they want to throw off and start again and be liberated from. But it's as though there is also a collective energy out there that is not helping the situation. So we as a global community also have a collective responsibility to really start to question, Metatron is saying, how we view individual countries and people. Because it's as though there are taglines that many people are associating with countries, which may very well in part be true. Metatron isn't trying to say these things don't exist in terms of violence, corruption, and all the other subjects that we're going to get into. But it's about being able to see the light within that darkness and focus on the light rather than the darkness, okay? So first card that came in off the bat, card number 36, it came upside down, linked into the energy of South Africa. Now let's just see also what the meaning, another meaning here is of that card. The affirmation is really repeating what I've just said, and the affirmation for South Africa is step into your light, okay? Step into your light. And it says, remember this came up in reverse. It says, this is a magnificent journey where even the steps are paved with gold. Step through the gateway and accept your rewards. You chose all of this. Every end is a new beginning. You have found vision and wisdom and know how to shine your light. Step into your magnificence so that others can find their way too. You are a beacon of light for humanity. So ultimately, that is the hope for South Africa, that it becomes not just a beacon for itself, but it becomes a beacon for the whole world. And that whole continent of Africa is the cradle of civilization. And it's one of a number of places around the world where Metatron has, over years, to be perfectly honest, highlighted and kept bringing me back to particular places in the world which are these cradles of civilization from which we owe enormous debt and gratitude to where we all are now. Another place would be Greece as well. He always shows me Greece. But anyway, we're talking about South Africa here, and we're talking about this rich beauty and treasure that lies within its land. I think, just wondering how to go about this. I think I'll look at the leaders first, because I think that would be quite a good way, and then we can get into the bigger questions. So I've printed out photographs of 4 men. Didn't necessarily even know what these men look like, have to be honest. Apologies if I pronounce their names wrong. I am, at the end of the day, an English woman, and I'm trying my best here. So the first person that we're going to look at is the energy of the current president of South Africa, who's called Cyril Ramaphosa. Okay, so let's just put his picture up there. Okay, now he is 66 years old, and the thing that strikes me about his energy, if you just tune into it, is, well, no, actually not even about his energy, just a fact, is that he is nearly twice as old as the other 2 people who are contenders to the throne, as it were, okay? So here is Julius Malema. He is the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters Party. He is only 37 years old, okay? And then the other one I'm going to look at today, who is, again, he's only 38, is Mmusi Maimane, I think that's how you pronounce his name, I don't know, of the Democratic Alliance, okay? And again, he is 38. So we've got a 38-year-old, a 37-year-old versus somebody who is 66. So it's not about being ageist here. I'm closer to Cyril's age than the other two. It's about the fact that to be in your 30s, you have more youth, you have more vigour, you have more desire for change. And that is very, very striking. I will just show you the fourth person, because I said there were 4 people we were going to be looking at today. The fourth one, I wasn't intending to look at, but I just saw his picture when I was printing out the other 2. And this guy was the 2nd president of South Africa. He is 76. He's called Thabo Mbeki. And what's interesting about him is Metatron is saying, look at him as well, because he feels as though all of the work that Nelson Mandela basically did, I guess this guy came in as the 2nd president after the first president after Nelson Mandela. Am I right in saying that? I think I am. But anyway, whatever the succession was after Nelson Mandela, this guy feels as though he is closest to what that whole, I don't want to say revolution, I want to say evolution was about, that Mandela was trying to bring in, the Rainbow Nation, peace between the races, basically being able to see the light for South Africa. And I don't know about any of these guys' policies, to be perfectly honest, but I'm just going on pure energy. And when I saw his picture, the feeling was, here is a grandfather of the country who still holds some of those ideals and who is, I'm hearing, still a force to be reckoned with. So whether he is somebody who still is speaking up on behalf of what he holds true to his heart and his principles and what he tried to do when he was in power, whether he did it well or he didn't do it well, no idea. But I feel as though there is an energy here of a man who, particularly at 76, when I say nearing the end of his life, he might still be alive for another 20 years, but he's not 26, he's 76. And it's as though he's wanting still to make a difference, to contribute to the energy of South Africa in a positive way. And he's coming through very much as like a grandfatherly type energy. And do you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't linked into the energy of Nelson Mandela, having some sort of, almost like I'm being shown some sort of direct line, like a telephone line. So he is somebody that needs to be on the radar, let's put it that way. I worked all of these men's numerology out, and let's start with him, because it's like, I feel like he wants to go first as the elder of the group. He comes out as a 31 energy. Now, in terms of colour, that would be a beautiful emerald green, okay? An emerald green energy. And it's linked into the energy also of the hermit. Somebody who feels as though he's a thinker, certainly is a thinker now, wanting to preserve boundaries, borders. And indeed, I don't know much about current South African politics, but just because I was literally on Google just now printing out these men's photographs, one thing that did catch my eye is I believe that he is speaking out against the land grabbing that is going on in South Africa. And that would make sense to me, because the 31 energy is about boundaries and the need for boundaries. At the end of the day, people that own a home or own a farm or something like that, if it's rightfully theirs, then it feels as though there's something here where he's sticking up for boundaries. Okay, and I know that's a very complex subject, but it's just what I want to bring through. Let's go back though to the current president. The word that I'm hearing for the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, is transition, okay? He's taken over from Zuma, and I'm not going to look at the ex-president's energy. I'm looking at this guy's energy because this is what we're dealing with today. And I'm feeling that he is a transition. He's like a stepping stone from what I'm almost being shown is the energy of whatever Zuma was about is here. The energy of what ultimately, I want to say the new leader will be. And it feels as though it will be one of these two young men that we were just looking at their photographs of. There's such a gap between where Zuma was and where these two new young guys are in their 30s. This guy's a bridge. This guy's a transition. So he's not going to go as far, but he feels as though he's an important step to get to a place ultimately that is going to be better, okay? He numerologically is a 27, so 2 and 7 make 9. We can boil it down to a single digit. He's got a lot of red energy within him. Funny enough, he's wearing a red tie there. The number 9 energy is the energy of Mars. So there's still quite a lot, probably justified anger, frustration within him. Somebody who is probably trying for peace, I'm hearing, but I'm feeling as though there's still quite a lot of rage within him. So that being said, let's pull some cards for him, shall we? So let's pull some cards for Cyril, and let's go for this deck, this South African deck. Let's just choose one. So Archangel Metatron, Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's have a look at his energy, please, or anything that we are, any message that wants to come through about him at this time. One card, please. I'm just going to call him Cyril because it's easier for me to say. One card for Cyril. Card number 28. Yeah, he's got the card of new beginnings. Card number 28. 28 is linked to new beginnings. The problem with new beginnings, guys, is that new beginnings can be very bumpy. They can be very turbulent. They can be very difficult. The whole concept of a new beginning is that something old has to die for the new beginning to come in. And the card doesn't show snowdrops, but it feels a bit like snowdrops to me. I think they're supposed to be birds or something. You can see the art is quite abstract, but it just reminds me of snowdrops energy. And snowdrops are a flower that come out in the UK. It's almost like the first sign you get that spring is around the corner is when the snowdrop comes up through the barren, winter, dark, cold earth. And you see the snowdrop and it's like, oh, spring is on the way. Even if I can't yet feel that spring is on the way, even if there are gales and it's freezing cold and it's still winter, I see the snowdrop. And the snowdrop, even though it's really delicate and vulnerable, because it's a tiny little flower, and it can easily be trodden on, basically, or it can be just swept away by wind and rain, but it persists. And I feel as though, I'm not going to go away from the first word that Metatron gave me, which is that Cyril feels as though it's about transition. It's about a very slow, hard, difficult new beginning, but it is a new beginning, okay? And I'm comparing that to what has gone before, okay? What has gone before, and particularly the era of Zuma, okay? That feels as though that is relevant. You know, on the bottom of the pack, I'm just looking down because on the bottom of the pack, I wasn't going to read the card, but it's so relevant. Card number 18. Now, the energy of 18 is linked into what we call material and spiritual conflict. But it's, again, very red energy, you can see. It's to do with, worst case scenario, it's linked into poverty consciousness, or certainly very much, it's all about the base chakra. It's about, can we be the light? Can we be spiritually abundant? And also materially wealthy or abundant in another way. And usually the card 18 energy is when there is something to heal with regard to being abundant and spiritual. And it almost feels as though, again, I want to widen this out now to Africa, other parts of Africa, because what I'm seeing here is a lot of the indigenous belief systems and religions, belief systems that belong to that place, that belong to that land, and that are, for some of the inhabitants of that great continent, are so much a part of the identity that it's really hard to, when I say let them go, what I'm really talking about is allow them to evolve. Because all belief systems, whether it be, I'm not actually talking about Christianity, but let's just use Christianity as an example, are so, all belief systems are evolving. There is no belief system on this planet that is not being forced to look at itself, clean up its act, evolve. That's what is needed. But I'm feeling that there are tribal belief systems still so firmly ingrained there that do not want to evolve, that it's almost holding back the spiritual growth of that great land. And the truth is, I mean, I can't talk knowledgeably about what those belief systems are in South Africa and indeed in Africa, but I'm talking tribal beliefs as well. It's not about letting go of identity so that, you no longer feel South African or African. It's more just allow in space, allow in room for growth and to be able to evolve. Because if we take, I'll give an example that I find easier to talk about because it comes from my part, well, not my part of the world, it's just my belief system that I grew up with. I grew up as a Christian, okay? So the traditional rooted, quite fundamental, I suppose, rigid view of Christianity is linked into the cross and suffering. And if you go back a few centuries, as I've said on many other videos, it's about taking vows of obedience and poverty and chastity and giving away all of your wares to the church, okay? It's the opposite of being abundant. It's almost like I will make myself poor so that you can be rich. The new Christ consciousness is linked into we can all be abundant. We are all part of that. I can be abundant. I can be both abundant and I also can have my faith. The two things, materialism and spirituality, do not have to be at such polar opposite ends of the spectrum that they don't meet, they don't merge. And I just feel that there's something still there, tribal and ancient religious customs, traditions, beliefs, superstitions that are holding back the explosion of what I want to call ascension light that wants to come in to South Africa just as much as it wants to come into every other part of the world. So it will only change when enough people that hold those rigid customs, traditions, superstitions and all the rest of it decide that they no longer work on some level. I'm a great believer that you don't have to throw everything out. It's about evolving. It's about taking the best bits of anything and retaining those because they still work, they're still valuable, they still resonate, they're still suited to the times that we're now living in, and junk the others that don't. So there's a bit of that going on. Now this came up in relation to the president. The president is only ever a reflection of the people. So I still feel as though he's carrying some of that within his blood, within his DNA, within his ancestral line. And I'm not commenting on that, whether that's good, bad, or whatever. It just feels like it's fact. It's still there within him. So there's healing to be done there. Let's pull a couple of tarot cards out now for the president. And let's just ask about current energy around him. And I'm going to pull out 3. Interesting, that's just come up upside down as well. This is the card of plenty and abundance, okay? It shows somebody who is, you know, look at it the right way round. There they are, they're feasting. They're feasting, they've got plenty, you know, too much really. It's upside down. So that says to me there is still something here lingering. Remember, he's transition. He's not the full answer, he's transition, he's a stepping stone to something better. But at the moment, whether it's him or whether there's people within his party, they are still taking too much. Look at that, taking too much. And it's like, that guy does not need that whole joint of meat, potatoes and everything, okay? It's like, he doesn't need all that. So, yes, I did pull that in relation to him. So there's one way you could say, well, maybe there's still there's a bit of that there, taking too much whilst others have nothing. Or it could be about his party. Okay, let's just have one more, that one. That's the card of the Knight of Cups, okay? So I do feel that he means well. I look at his face and I see a man, I feel there's honesty there. I do feel there's honesty. I feel that he wants to do well, actually. The Knight of Cups is the energy of somebody who almost feel like he's wanting to ride into the rescue, is what I'm hearing. But I'm feeling as though he might be riding into the rescue with either not the full army behind him, and I'm talking here about, not talking about a physical army, I'm just meaning the full backup required, or yeah, I just don't feel he's got, I feel like the party behind him, is he the ANC? I think he's the ANC. The party behind him is slower to catch up with where he wants it to go and be than he is. That's what I'm feeling with him. Okay, let's have one more card. Going forward, Cyril. Going forward. That one. Okay, we've got the death card. Now, death doesn't mean physical death. Please don't read it in that way. Death could be that he is, what did I say? I was talking about he's bringing in a new beginning. And to bring in the new beginning, you have to have the death of the old. He seems to be a staging post to help the country rebirth itself, transform. It's not an easy process. I don't need to tell you that. I'm sitting here in the UK. I haven't got the concerns around me for my personal safety necessarily that some people have that are going to be watching this. I know that. But I'm just saying, look at the card. I mean, the death card is always a bit graphic. But look, there's people trampled underfoot here, okay? He is residing over the death of the old. And he is transition and stepping stone to the new. What guidance can we give him, Metatron? Or what guidance is there with regard to this man? I'm sort of wanting to say to people, and Metatron's meaning this in a nice way, it's almost as though there is so much expectation on his shoulders to sort it all out. It's overwhelming what needs to be sorted out. And it's as though if people could just reduce their expectations a little bit and realise that this is stepping stone stuff. We're in transition. He can't do it all. He can't clean it all up. He is helping to transform something which is very difficult, and the death process is difficult, but there are the shooting little snowdrops coming through symbolically, energetically, which are showing that it's worth the short-term pain for the long-term gain, the new beginning that will materialise. I think he's in a very difficult position. Does he stay in the job very long? I don't feel he stays in the job very long. But he is there now, and he's meant to be there. And I keep feeling an energy with him like it's like a holding pattern. It's like a holding pattern. You know when a plane is in a holding pattern and it's trying to land, maybe. It's trying to land with, you know, new people on board, with new ideas and new inspiration, new energy. But it can't yet. It's in a holding pattern. That's what I'm seeing he's doing. He's holding it. Some might judge him and say not very well. That's not coming from me. And that's not coming from Metatron either. I think he's in a very difficult position. But I think he's doing the best that he can. Okay, let's move on to Julius Malema. From what I understand, Julius Malema is age 37 and he is the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters. I was looking for photographs of all of them which were, you know, smiley or something, just so people don't say, oh, you know, why have you chosen one and he's scowling and the other guy's not. Actually, with this guy, Julius, a lot of the poses, not poses, a lot of the photographs are very, he seems to gesticulate a lot. There's a lot of movement with arms and, you know, he's pointing and all of this. So what words am I picking up for his energy? Intensity is the main one. Hothead, I'm also for hearing. A hothead, intensity, deeply cares about his country and his people, and has the potential to be quite a visionary, actually. The problem with visionary, what I'm feeling is that sometimes people that are visionaries aren't necessarily very good at the details, okay? They're great at being able to see where they want to be going or taking the country, the people, and lots of ideas firing around in this guy's head. Dynamic ideas, radical ideas, purposeful energy. I'm just wondering about the details. I keep being drawn back to the details. His numerology is interesting, slightly concerns me a little bit. Nothing about his energy, but it's that his numerology comes out as a 26. 2 and 6 make 8. 8 is Saturn. Okay, Saturn's okay. Saturn is actually, you see, the thing with Saturn is it feels at odds with this guy's energy, because Saturn is the energy which asks you to go slow, to build slowly, so that you don't take wrong moves or, you know, make mistakes. The foundation for the future has to be built on very solid ground. It's very methodical, quite ploddy, quite slow. I don't feel this guy's energy is slow. I feel this guy's energy is fast, dynamic, and it's at odds with this Mars energy. So I'm feeling friction straight away with some of the ideas that he may have that he wants to implement up against the apparatus of government, institutions, corporations, legal places as well, legal people, who I'm feeling would thwart a lot of what he wants to bring in, and which is a shame in some ways, but it is what it is. The other thing about the 26 numerology, we boiled it down to 8, but 26 as well is linked into an energy of codependency. And remember, I'm reading this more in terms of the country. So that's at odds, basically, with South Africa being completely self-empowered and South Africans of every colour being self-empowered and being the light. Codependency is usually linked into, well, I lean on you, you lean on me. But in a dysfunctional way. So that concerns me a little bit. Let's pull a card for him though. Let's see what we get. And let's go for the Shelly Adams deck firstly. So Julius Malema. He's got a very clear energy though. I mean, actually, if you look at his picture, look at that. It's like he's clear, he's direct. I would imagine that he's the type of person where, let's put it this way, you know where you stand with him, okay? You know where you stand with him. There's no hiding behind a hall of mirrors. You know where you stand with him. You know his position on things. And I feel as though there isn't any hiding, which in many ways would be very refreshing probably for the country. Because certainly down the years, obviously there's been so much corruption and people sort of, well, not knowing basically what the person standing beside you is actually doing. So he does feel quite direct and quite clear. And I definitely feel he's got a very sharp analytical mind. But let's just see. Let's just have one card then. So Metatron, Julius Malema, born on the 3rd of the 3rd, 1981, age 37. He's young. He's young, but yet he's got quite an old soul actually. He's not, yeah, he's got quite an old soul. Right, that one. That's card number 1. Yeah, that would be him. He does see himself as a prospective leader. And it's still everything to play for, I would say. I mean, if you put these two guys against each other, you know, that's where South Africa, you know, these are the two main leaders of the opposition. And obviously you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realise it probably is going to be one of those in the future. So they have very, very different energies though. Yeah, number 1, he's a leader. He believes in himself. He absolutely, I mean, look at that face. He believes in himself. Nothing wrong with that either, to be honest. Number 1, the sun, the energy of the sun. Let's see what the book says for card number 1. So this is his energy. Number 1, it's about stand in your authentic power and communicate your highest truth. I feel that is him. Even if you don't like what his authentic truth is, he will tell you what it is. And he will tell you what he believes in. And I don't feel there's a lot of middle ground with him. That's one thing that I would say. It's like I'm hearing it's his way or the highway. And at the end of the day, 5th dimensional leaders that need to appear upon the world stage need to be a little bit more inclusive. And when I look at the next guy, I would say that the energy here is more inclusive, okay? So, but let's not jump ahead of ourselves. Let's just finish off on Julius, okay? So he's got number 1 energy. Let's pull a couple of tarot cards for him. I'm actually going to put the cards that we've already had, I'm putting them back into the deck because it's interesting sometimes if you get the same cards coming out for different people. Okay, Julius Malema. Let's have a look at his energy at the moment. What's going on with him? What message, Metatron, do we have for Julius? Also, card number 1 for him, that shows an eagle, and look at that eagle. Can you see that eagle's face? Look at that. Okay. Knows exactly where he's going, where he wants to go. Razor sharp. Julius Malema. Let's have 3 cards, Metatron. Julius Malema. What is it that wants to come through? Let's have a look at current energy with him. Current energy, Julius Malema. Those 2. Yeah, that makes sense. Look at these. The Death card again, but look what's beside it, the Chariot. He is impatient to be in power, you know? He is looking on Cyril and the transition and the stepping, and it's like it's too slow. You know, the death of the old, the transition that needs to happen in South Africa is not happening fast enough for this guy. Whether you like his politics or you hate his politics is almost immaterial here. I'm reading his energy, and his energy, he just wants to charge straight ahead. And I actually rather love the fact that here we've got 2, is it sphinxes? Yeah, 2 sphinxes. We've got black and white. And he is actually, he's on the Chariot, and he is leading both black and white. Look at that. And there's a heart there. Oh no, it's not a heart actually. It's, I read it as a heart. I'm going to say it's a heart because it felt like a heart to me. He is leading both. Now, I quite like that. I think that's coming through quite strongly to me. I don't know whether he's shown that yet. In terms of inclusivity. And I was just saying I feel the other guy is more inclusive, and I still do. But he has got the Chariot. He's wanting to move. He's wanting to move the country on. He is. He's wanting to move the country on. Let's have one more card. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Look at the Chariot. That's him, okay, in the Chariot, moving black and white on together, trying to create this, you know, rainbow nation that Mandela talked about. Look at where his hand is. His hand is on his heart. He believes. He believes in what he believes. You know, here is a man, as I say, even if you don't like him or don't like what he stands for, he knows what he believes. And he knows where he wants to be going. And he's a potent force. He's a contender. Do not write this guy off. Let's see, going forward. Going forward. Julius Malema, going forward. His role in South Africa, going forward. 5 of Swords. This shows somebody who's won a battle, but the question is, he's won the battle, but at what cost? Okay? And it backs up what I was just saying, which is that I do think he's got the potential to go all the way. But I don't know whether he starts off with grand ideas about, you know, trying to unite, you know, different colours and people and all the rest of it. But I do wonder about who are these people that feel left behind by him in the fight. He's victorious here. He's won the battle. But at what cost? At what cost does he win the battle? He himself is victorious. But there are other people who have been left behind. Another interpretation of that could be, if it's not people within the country that he has divided by conquering, it comes at a high personal cost to him. This could be family. I think he is a family man. I think he's got children. But there's an element of sacrifice. He's had to really sacrifice something to get to the top. And, you know, the colour energies are interesting here. I'm talking about the colour mirrors energies because I said he was a 26. Numerologically, he's a 26. If you add his birth date up, it comes to 26. The colours of 26 within colour mirrors are magenta and green. Look at the colours that guy's wearing. He's wearing magenta and green. The magenta is the bridge to the future. Olive green is linked into many things. Hope for the future, divine feminine energy, new beginnings. I just worry a little bit because it feels like he could do it. Look at this. He could do it. He could move the country away from a more destructive phase with the Chariot, but at what cost? Yeah, because, you know, the next card that comes after that is the Ten of Swords. Look at that. Fatally wounded in battle. There's something here about that, you know. Whether he ultimately would alienate somebody or people. I almost don't want to really say what I'm feeling. But it's linked into violence. You know, somebody that maybe comes in on a trying to clean up violence. God forbid they became a victim of violence. Something like that. And I'm not saying that's set in stone and has to happen. But there's a price that's paid here. Somebody pays a price. Somebody gets, you know, taken out of the battlefield and have paid the ultimate price. So, yeah, it's quite heavy energy here. So let's just uplift that now. Let's ask for the angels just to be around him and his work and his life path, whatever that is, whatever is intended. And just for him to be able to hold peace and success, because nothing is set in stone. Nothing is set in stone. Okay, let's move on a little bit to the next guy. But before I do, I'm just going to ask Metatron what I'm feeling here. What is this that I'm feeling linked into his energy? Metatron's saying that he has an energy with him that if he's backed into a corner, he might not necessarily respond in the way that he ultimately would want to respond. Okay? He's a number one. He's a leader energy. He's dynamic. He's young. He's got the chariot. He wants to move forward, away from the destruction, to the new beginning. He wants to get there quicker than probably South Africa can. Back him into a corner and tell him he can't. I think that's where you start to get the fireworks. Okay? So, that's him. Right, let's look at the third person here. Mmusi Maimane. Okay. Interesting, his name, the way you spell his name, M-M-U-S-I, M-M. Whenever I see M-M, I know he's a man, I always think of Mary Magdalene, I just do, because I make sprays, and I often say to Tracy, you know, can you send me an M-M spray, or, you know, I just abbreviate it, M-M, Mary Magdalene. Anyway, whether that's anything linked to him or not is a completely different question. Let's just look at who he is. He is age 38, which interestingly adds up to 11 at the moment. He, numerologically, he's a 6-6. He's born on the 6th of the 6th month, 1980. So he's a year younger, sorry, a year older than the other one. And he works out numerologically to 30, okay, 30. 30 is a beautiful blue energy, and I've got it sitting up there. I'm going to go and get it to show you. Yeah, 30. This would be his colour energy. Okay, that's bottle number 30. So it's turquoise and blue. And wonder what colour his party is, Democrat Alliance. Is it blue? Maybe it is, I don't know. He's against a blue, I don't know. Anyway, the point is blue energy. Bottle number 30, his numerology links to a very creative spirit. Now, here is a man who is going to take a different approach to solve South Africa's problems. He knows that the way that all the issues that South Africa has, he knows that the way that it's been tried to be sorted in the past with the old rule book, it's like rip it up, it's not going to work. So he is going to come at it from a very different approach, a creative approach, collaboration, cooperation, and if this man were to form a government, what I'm seeing is he would do something really radical. It's almost, I mean, I don't even know if this is possible. I've never known this to be never known this to happen, but it's what Metatron's showing me. This might be symbolic, it's just trying to illustrate his energy. He forms a government, and it's almost as though within his cabinet, if that's what you call it, it's what we call it over here, within his cabinet are members of the other parties, okay, as well as his own. Even though he doesn't even have to have them in there, they would be around the table with him, because he would be, he's a team player. That's what I'm hearing very clearly. He is a team player. He has the energy of somebody a bit like Obama, okay? Just throw that in. He's a diplomat. He's a diplomat, he's a team player, and he has a creative way of looking at the problems and how they can be sorted. And yeah, let's have a look at his card that comes out. He would be very accepted into the fold on the world stage, I'm hearing. Whether we like it or not, we live in quite a shallow world a lot of the time, where certain, you know, we all have our leaders and they all go to all these summits and we see them all lining up and standing next to each other and often false handshakes and all the rest of it. But there are some leaders of countries where you wince a bit. I'm not talking about South Africa here. I'll talk about my own country. So there've been a few leaders we've had over the years where you see them on the world stage and it's like, oh my God, they haven't just done that, have they? Or, you know, oh my God, look at what he looks like or she looks like, or have they just said that? You know, let's lighten it up a bit. Anybody see Theresa May doing the Maybot? What's it called, the Maybot? Do you know what I'm talking about? In fact, was she in Africa? I think she might have been. She was somewhere and she was having to dance, and it was just, it was cringe. It was cringing. It was cringe-worthy, because the poor lady, she can't dance for toffee. And you looked at her as a Brit and you thought, oh no, please, Theresa, don't do that, you know, on the world stage. He is somebody, I'm lightening it because Metatron wants me to lighten it. He is somebody on the world stage other leaders would respect, and I feel like he would represent the country well, and that's important. Going back to what we were saying at the start of this, I'm just going to open the window because I've been burning this incense. It's quite smoky in this room. He is somebody, remember I was talking about the tag, you know, South Africa having this tag of being a violent place as an example, or being a corrupt place. And as a global community, we have a responsibility to help lift that. All of us do. But when we think about South Africa, thinking positive thoughts, you know, seeing them as a beacon, even if they don't feel as though they are yet, seeing it. That's the law of manifestation. It's the law of the universe. We apply it to loads of other situations. Those of us that are on our spiritual path, we know that what we think, we become. And what we dream, we can dream in, whether it's good or bad. And we do that for countries, is what Metatron is saying, okay? So what he does, when you start to see this, I'm wanting to say when you see this guy on the world stage, I think he's going to be on the world stage, he will help to lift that whole tag, identity, old cloak that a lot of the leaders are still, they're not choosing to wear. It's just that it's part of the old identity. People are still associating them with the past. He feels as though the word that I'm feeling I want to give him is future. He feels like he belongs to the future. Let's pull a card for him. Isn't it funny that I hadn't even realised I was doing it, but I've obviously just opened the window and there's actually a gale today out there. We've got the remnants of a storm, and so the wind is coming in, it's rattling the door. I'll have to close the window in a minute because it's a bit noisy. But look what I just did. I was talking about this guy's energy, and what I've subconsciously done is I've thought, it's only incense smoke in the room, but it's like I needed to clear the energy. I needed to open the window to let the fresh air in, and now that door, that doesn't fit particularly well, is rattling. It wants to be opened. In fact, I'm going to go and blink and open it because it's symbolic. Let's open the door for South Africa. Let us open the door for South Africa and let the fresh energy in. It's him. Let's pull a card for him. I've got this rising sense of excitement. That's what I'm feeling with him. And I think that's what potentially he can do for the people within the country. He can give them hope again. He can make them feel as though they can do it. They can become the best of what they can be. Because at the moment, they don't feel that. Right, let's have one card for Mmusi. Okay, it's just fallen out, okay? What is it? Oh, wow. Look at that. Oh my God, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. It's card number 22. A master number energy. I'm choked up because I know the significance of this. Now the card, there's so many reasons I'm feeling emotional about this. 22 is a master number energy, okay? So he is a spiritual guy. He's a very spiritual man. He's coming in with a specific mission for South Africa. Look at these two cards. Do you remember I showed you this one for the current president, okay? The current president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. And I said all of this 18 energy, I was talking about material and spiritual conflict, and South Africa being so tied into that conflict. We can't have both. We can't be spiritual and abundant. And I was talking about that, and it's all red. Look at what we've got for Cyril. Can you see how the colour changes? And the only red that's there, I almost want to say it's on the way out, because the colours that are coming in, look at that. It's pinks and violet. And pink and violet are about transmutation, they are about spirit, they are about balance, they are about love. And then 22, the energy of 22 within colour mirrors is the energy of forgiveness. It's forgiveness. Oh my God. I mean, just think about that. The energy of forgiveness. How do you heal anything in the world? However unpleasant, dark it is, it's through forgiveness. He's going to bring in the energy of forgiveness. I don't know how he does it, but that's what I'm feeling he does. And I tell you what, he's helped by many. There are many the other side of the veil. He's got like a spiritual A-team on his side, I feel. Thank God. But people need to get behind him. Do you know, people need to get behind him, and people, it's a funny thing to say because he is a political leader. Of course he is. He is the, what party is he? He's the Democratic Alliance. So to say, put politics aside when he's a politician, I know sounds absolutely ludicrous, but almost what I want to say is that what comes across is he's the best man for the job. And sometimes you need to, I think we're living in times, and this is where it becomes applicable to so many other countries, where people are so defined by the party that they support. Well, would you vote for that party whoever was in power? The answer to that should really be no. Or are party lines going to start to blur a little bit? And are we actually going to vote for the leader, the man or the woman that is the best person for the job? Ultimately, it should be about voting for the best person for the job, rather than he's a Democrat, he's this, he's that. So I feel as though somehow he brings the country together. I don't know when. I mean, he's still quite young, but yet I feel youth is part of the appeal that he has. So I don't think it's that far off. That's the wrong deck of cards. Let's just pull some tarot cards for him. Let's look at where he is currently. Okay, where he is currently. I'm seeing him busy. And by that, what I mean is somebody who is, I'm not saying he's got his head in a book the whole time, but I'm just being shown this image of him with his head in the book. Okay, Metatron, he's showing me him reading lots of newspapers, international newspapers as well. He's using his time quite wisely to gem up on not just South Africa's situation, but the world situation. And where does South Africa fit into that? Where are the opportunities? Where is the growth? So I'm seeing him as a world, he's on the world stage. This isn't just about South Africa. He becomes a figurehead in the world. Oh my gosh, I mean, look at that card that came up for him. Number 1 is the card of the sun. And on the bottom of the pack is this card. And I feel as though the sun is helping to say goodbye to what's on the bottom. Because what's on the bottom tends to be what's on the way out, often, sometimes how I interpret it. And here we've got, this is a beggar, you know, somebody having to beg. This would almost be an energy linked into some parts of South Africa, also some parts of Africa, of having to beg, handouts, all of that. And it's like, you know, being given that. But it's as though this is the most important energy, the sun. The sun shines on the harvest. The sun shines on the country, basically. And there is growth again. And there is play. Look at these 2 children. They're playing. They're having fun. When was the last time we associated South Africa with fun and laughter and play? When was the last time you as South Africans identified those attributes as being the most pressing and evident in your country, rather than it being rape, torture, you know, whatever, corruption, all the problems that are there? The sun. Let's see what else. So linked into this man's energy. So he has got the energy of the sun. And the moon. Oh, wow. Yeah, how perfect is that? He's got the energy of both the sun and the moon. What is the energy of the sun and the moon? The sun is masculine. The moon is feminine. I mentioned Mary Magdalene earlier, didn't I? MM. She would be the moon. Okay? The feminine energy. He holds both. And at the end of the day, South Africa, like many parts of Africa and other parts of the world, so many of the questions that have come in have been about race. But actually, what about gender? What about gender? So it feels as though gender is high on his agenda. Excuse the pun. Okay? I feel he would be very comfortable having women around him in government as well. And he wouldn't shy away from that. I'm seeing the old boys club, you know, of decades. I don't know, you know, all the history, but, you know, I'm seeing decades of men ruling South Africa. And okay, he's still a man, okay? But yet he holds the feminine energy more than the others. And he would include women into positions of power. And in a weird way, you know, when I said at the start, we had, let me just show you. I was seeing it as a chart. We had Zuma. We've got the current leader, Ramaphosa. Okay, he's current. And then we've got, okay, that's what we're at. Okay, we've got, yeah, Zuma. Then we had the stepping stone, the transition, which is the current leader. And then somehow, who's here? Well, it's looking like it's probably him. But don't rule out this guy either. You know, he's a contender. But then what I want to say is that after them, I'm feeling a woman. And I'll tell you what, that would change all of it. He opens the door for women in positions of power within South Africa. And how exciting would that be? How would that change things? And straight away I'm feeling the energy of Winnie Mandela, but her influence isn't the influence that I'm feeling of the divine feminine, okay? I'm feeling somebody completely different who is holding a very different vibration. Okay, let's just leave it at that. Let's have one more card for Mmusi. One more card, Metatron, for Mmusi. Yeah, we've got the Magician on the back of, on the bottom of the deck. So he is the Magician, but he's it's going to be quite a lonely place for him, actually. Look at that. This is him. Remember, I was pulling the cards for him. So he is the Magician. He is also the sun. He is also the moon. He's going to have a lot of expectations on his shoulders when he comes through. And it's going to feel quite a lonely place. It's going to feel quite a lonely place. But no one's going to see that. This is his inner self. You're not going to see this. Let's have one more that goes with that card. Oh, I don't even need to ask. It's on the bottom. It's the next card that went with it. The card that goes with this one of feeling alone is that because there's a lot of infighting still, you know. We have to be realistic. We're not going to utopia straight away. What we're saying is that this guy has what I'm hearing is the future template for South Africa. So more about genuine teamwork, building bridges, not just with race, but with gender. But there's going to be fighting, of course. He's going to face massive opposition to some of what it is that he wants to do, and it's going to be quite lonely for him. So he will need lots of support. One of the questions that came through was, what can we as light workers do in South Africa where you can get behind the good guys, you know, get behind the good guys, send the protection, send the light, hold the highest vision for South Africa. Okay, really important. Okay, let's just, I'm aware this video is getting a bit long, so let's just ask about a couple of subjects which I know are very close to people's heart. Let's ask about corruption firstly. Let's ask about corruption. And this is something that's been going on for a long time. Let's just ask about the energy of corruption. What guidance can Metatron give? Okay, thank you. He's showing me it's the last empire to fall. And what he means by that is I'm being shown ancient civilizations. I'm being shown the Roman civilization, the Greek civilization. A lot of these, well, all of them actually, ultimately they collapsed because of excessive corruption and well, many other aspects as well. Hedonism also comes into it. That's not as relevant for South Africa, but it's like these very powerful ancient civilizations. It was like there came a moment where it was like a tipping point. It was like the volcano, and it was no longer sustainable. And you know, this death that is to happen for South Africa is huge, but it needs to be huge for the transition to the new to come in. And some of you watching me, you've been in this dark place, you know, this darkness and the fear for a long time, and you think, but when will it end? When will it end? We've had years of this. And Metatron is not negating that and saying that isn't the truth, because it has been the truth. But he's asking us just to lift our vision a little bit in terms of the history of countries. And the truth is that even if we live for 90 plus years, it is still a tiny, tiny drop in the ocean, tiny percentage of that country's history. And I am being shown, as I'm often shown for many other situations around the world, generations coming through where they are born with a different template of what they believe South Africa to be and the way that you operate in business, in personal relationships, and the evolution will occur, but the death first needs to happen. And it just feels as though there becomes a tipping point where, like ancient civilizations such as Rome and Greece happened. Put it this way, what Metatron's showing me is, imagine you're in ancient Rome and you're going round in your, you know, sitting on your throne with your laurel leaf, and you've got all your money and taxes, and the other people are poor and starving, and you just think that gravy train is going to go on forever. There is never a moment in your consciousness where you think it's suddenly going to end. It does suddenly end. The day, the moment, we are not to know, but it ends. Empires fall over things like corruption. And what light workers need to do in South Africa is to hold the peace, as you have been already doing, hold the light, and ask for as easy a transition as possible between death and rebirth. Okay? What I'm not feeling is any particular earth change event in that region. I mean, there are indeed, you know, drought, fires, all the rest of it that happen there. But versus other parts of the world where I've tuned into before with Metatron, where you feel as though some of the change that needs to happen in society and consciousness is only going to come via earth changes, where people have to finally come to their senses and pull together and step into unity consciousness. Somehow, some way, South Africa seems to do it in a different way, and it comes up from the roots, the ground roots of society. It comes from the people itself, and it may well be that is the moment when the wider world look at South Africa and think, wow, how the hell did they do that? How did they become that? On a completely, to give an analogy, and it's a completely different area of the world and a different subject, but I remember going back to doing business studies at university, and one of the subjects we looked at was the growth of Japan as an economy after the war. And I was bored stiff by economics, I have to be honest, but even I was interested by the economics of Japan and the growth of that economy that happened, which was just like, it like shot up from nothing. And you know, if you're an economics student, you know what I'm talking about. You look at the growth of Japan as an economy, and it's like, how did they do that? How did they do that? And it's like, get the textbooks out. Let's learn from that. It's something similar with South Africa. It's suddenly, it takes off. Are they going to be helped, Metatron? I'm talking here spiritually helped. I mean, of course, it's a given you're going to be spiritually helped. But I'm just wondering whether there's anything additional coming in here. I am feeling, you've heard me talk how many times about downloads, light codes, portals, all the rest of it. As a colour therapist, what I do is, and what I believe is, that we get a download of light, of energy that transforms us, okay? I'm feeling that with South Africa, the download of light that they get, or are going to be getting, is going to be of a higher intensity than is available on many others, that is available to other places around the world, and that would include the UK. Now, where are they with relation to the equator line? Sorry to have to look this up. I want to get it right. Otherwise, if I get it wrong, people will be quick to jump on me. South Africa equator. Located south of the equator on the southern tip of Africa, South Africa is in both the eastern and southern hemispheres. Where is the equator in South Africa? The equator is several thousand miles north of South Africa. However, the Tropic of Capricorn, I'm being drawn to tell you this, I don't know why, does skim through the northern Limpopo region of South Africa. Countries that lie on the equator. I'm being asked to look at this. Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil. There's a host of them. Somalia, Kenya, Uganda. Okay. Don't know where Metatron's going with that. Okay, here we go. I've got a map now. That's better. I can see the map. It's got something to do with distance from the equator. They are... Let me just put my camera up. Look, that's the equator line. Sorry, it's not a very exact science here, but that's the equator line, South Africa. They're going to be helped with light codes, downloads of energy that's going to transform that land. Okay, my battery's about to die on this film, so I might actually upload this now, but I just want to quickly, I've got to mention the animals. So Metatron, just let my battery survive for a few minutes more. What guidance have we got for these endangered animals in South Africa that are being hunted, traded, made extinct in some places? Got that song in my head, Noah's Ark. The animals came in 2 by 2. Who sang that? The animals came in 2 by 2. The giraffe and the kangaroo, and they Noah's Ark is an analogy of God saves what is needed to be saved after whatever happens, okay? I'm not talking about a big event, but that was what the ark was. God, the story, whether you believe it's true or not, doesn't matter. It's symbolic. I'm being shown the ark, and the animals went in 2 by 2, and none was left out. The animals that are meant to survive will survive. This is a huge subject, and I know I'm about to run out of camera, so I almost would like to do a separate video, I think, on the animals, okay? I'm going to get this up now so we can start off the discussion. God's promise, the ark was God's promise that he was going to keep safe every living thing is sacred. The violence against animals is only a reflection of the violence against man there, and indeed in the wider world. Violence is violence, whether it's towards an animal, whether it's towards a human being. And the energy of peace, which does not exist yet in South Africa. Hi guys, the battery died on me, so I'm back after a bit of lunch, and I just wanted to end with just a few more words about the animal kingdom and the situation in South Africa. And what basically is coming through is this, which is that the animal kingdom are wanting to remind us that they are sovereign beings in their own right, that they are powerful souls in their own right, that they do not want to be seen as powerless victims in all this, because nothing could be further from the truth. Looking at it purely from a 3D perspective, they look powerless victims who are being destroyed, murdered, habitat going, all the rest of it. That is fact. We know that is fact. But at a higher level, I'm being shown, as an example, the oversoul group, the oversoul that belongs to the lions. There was the lion that came forward. And so the way to understand this is that lions all belong to the same breed, which is the lion breed. They all have a soul, but they also all share what's called an oversoul, which unites them as a tribe, a breed, a species, a particular consciousness that chooses in this lifetime to take on the persona of lion. And what I was being taken to was the energy of the oversoul of the lion, which is as far removed from a victim as you can get. At that level, you see, as an example, the lion as the one that is ultimately in control. If lions were ever to stop and not exist upon this planet, it would be as a result of the lions deciding that themselves, and not through any action by man. Man is only able to act and even do what is happening because at some level the oversoul of the breed, the lion breed, has chosen to allow it. Now you might say, well, why the hell would they allow that? Earth is a planet of duality, and whether you are an animal or whether you are a human being, we're obviously animals anyway, whether you're a lion or whether you're a human being, the rules of duality still apply. Otherwise, that species wouldn't even be here, because it wouldn't have anything to experience, anything to teach us, anything to learn. Exactly the same as the human being. The human being comes to Earth to experience duality, to experience both light and dark. And we've talked about that over and over again in my videos, and it's a theme we will come back to over and over again, because it's a dualistic planet. It continues to be a dualistic planet, and it's the only way that you can make sense of both good and bad, light and dark upon this planet. Animals that are here have chosen to be here. Otherwise they wouldn't be here. They would be linked into another system, another star system, another planet, beyond our wildest imaginings, I'm hearing. Okay, so the ones that come are coming because they want to experience what it is to be here on Earth. And so make no mistake about it, if any animal is being mistreated or abused or killed in any way, it is only because that has been agreed at some level, at higher soul level. And that's hard to listen to and understand, but it's no more hard or difficult to understand than applying exactly the same principle to a human being, because that is what I believe also happens to the human race. Whatever happens to us here on Earth as a human being, good or bad, has been, you know, the big events I'm talking about, has been decided at higher level before we incarnate. The soul is always in control, and the soul has chosen to come here on this planet, this heavy vibrational planet, this planet of duality, to learn, to witness, to feel all of it. Animals are exactly the same. So please, the message coming from them, and it feels quite a strident one, is stop seeing us as victims. And part of the decimation of some particular breeds of animal, particularly in South Africa, feels as though it's a lesson for humanity in terms of how low will we go? How low will we go into darkness and shadow before we wake up to the beauty that is actually in front of us, whether that be in the form of, you know, a beautiful lion or any of the other animals, elephants that are hunted and are mistreated upon our world. I'm also being shown just the most beautiful image. I'm being shown the globe. I've got the globe here. I was given this. I'm being shown the globe, and actually this globe does have all the grid lines. And on the globe, across all of the grid lines, I'm just seeing these children's faces. And they're from the ages of about 5 to 15. There are older ones as well, but particularly 5 to 15. And they're here now, okay? They are here now. And they have come in with a complete and utter understanding of the fact that the animal is sovereign, has a sovereign soul and destiny, and is to be treated with complete and utter respect. And we will see evolutionary change on our planet where that generation of kids that are already here look back at the future, at parents and grandparents who are still here now, as like, how did you allow that? How did you allow humanity to sink to that level where you thought that was acceptable? So there's two things going on. Firstly, it's like there's a whole army of children coming in who will not tolerate that old behaviour, that old pattern of abuse of animals in that way, and hunting of animals. But equally, the animals are also saying, but please also realise it's only happening because we are allowing that to show humanity something in terms of, I'm feeling how far can it go, okay? How far can it go? And it feels as though, how far can we go? It's almost like we're virtually there now, you know? We're at the bottom of the barrel. There's only one way to go from here, and that's up. The other thing is very coming through very strongly is about animals and breeds of animals only become extinct when the animal and that breed has decided they no longer have anything to learn or any purpose to serve or anything to experience here upon this earth. And it's always, always, always the animal that decides that, whether that be through natural disaster, geographic, you know, earth change stuff, or through what is deemed as human action. But the humans have only been given the power to do it because the animals have, at higher self level, agreed to it. You cannot make sense of any of what I've just said if you try and view it purely from a 3D perspective. You have to go to the oversoul group of the animal and almost like converse with the animal at soul level to understand why it's happening, and then what you actually feel more than anything is the complete awe of how strong and powerful that animal actually is. So I'm going to leave it there, I think, just because I'm getting a little bit tired now myself, and it's quite a long video. So there were a few things I didn't cover in this, but I've covered most of it. And I hope that it's helped those of you that are in South Africa to just understand a little bit about the current energy there, where I was picking up, I feel it's going, and to give you some peace. So lots of love, everyone. I think if I was in South Africa now and I was a light worker, you know, make sure you're all pulling together, linking up with each other, holding the light. And for anybody that's watching this not from South Africa, realise that you can do your part as well by sending good vibrations, love, support, strength and protection to that country as well. Much love for now. Bye-bye.